Jordan Peterson to compete with the World Economic Forum. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee because, well, we've got some good news. Jordan Peterson has announced he's working, to counter and provide an alternative to the World Economic Forum, which is something we certainly need because there definitely is a bias in the WEF, and my concern is that you've got bureaucrats and politicians getting involved there, talking with the same people, and then you've got them, acting on behalf of their conversations and the good of the desire for change coming from the WEF and not necessarily representing the views of their constituents. I think the greatest risk is the civil servants because they're a lot harder to remove than the politicians. So the fact that there's an alternative being proposed from Peterson is a fantastic idea. So Dr. Jordan Peterson announced on Joe Rogan's podcast that he's launching an alternative consortium to the globalist World Economic Forum. Peterson appeared on Rogan's podcast released on Saturday. He said the international consortium will be based out of London and the first meeting will take place in the fall. He didn't reveal the name of the group or anyone who would be involved. And I think judging by who Peterson has interacted with on Twitter, we can make some educated guesses. We're trying to put together something like an alternative vision of the future. Say an alternative to the kind of apocalyptic narrative that's being put forward, at least implicitly by organizations like the WEF, Peterson said. And this is fantastic news because you've got so many people, and I call a lot of them wet bots. They're not even humans anymore. They've programmed themselves with this apocalyptic vision of the future. We need more taxes. We need more government intervention. We need less freedom. We need climate lockdowns. Just wait. The idiots will call for this rubbish. And because they're literally afraid that the world is coming to an end. It's like a religious cult. They think the world is coming to an end in a few years, and taxes and repenting for our environmental sins will save us. I would make the counter-argument that the modeling that's used to determine long-term environmental impacts of humanity on the world is, not exactly 100% accurate, and that the damage that we're going to do to the economy to try and mitigate this will have a greater negative impact on our ability to develop more advanced and efficient energy production methods, and will just destroy innovation. It's really that simple. The more expensive life is, the less energy you have to innovate with, the less finances and resources you have to innovate with. This is why some of these stupid ideas, when you look at the embodied energy and the actual environmental impact, some of them are negative, but we're not dealing with reasonable people anymore. You're dealing with people that are ideologically possessed and they're scared. They're coming from a place of fear, so they can't think rationally anymore. And you'll see on Twitter all the time, people will brand themselves, climate activists, the end is nigh, essentially. We've got a climate emergency. So they're not really thinking logically anymore or rationally. You can't put a rational argument to them because they've branded themselves as this. It becomes part of their core identity. It's an interesting phenomenon, and the first time I learned about it was in the book Influence by Cialdini, where in the Korean War they would get the Koreans would get US prisoners of war to write essays and papers for competitions to win, like extra rations or things, where they'd be slightly introducing things to be a little bit critical of capitalism. And they'd just build upon that and that and that to the point where they'd become indoctrinated. But because by the act of writing it down, it's powerful. And with your words, your statement, your signature, your essay, it starts to become a part of your identity. This is why the written word is so powerful, and why when people are branding themselves with these things all over social media, you're kind of wasting your time. Don't cast your pearls before swine. So let's keep going here. With Joe Rogan, JRE, the WEF, an alternative vision my sentencing by the ON College of Psychologists, the religious substrate of radical environmentalism. Yeah, this is what it is. It has become a new global religion. And if you even question it, it can destroy your jobs, it can destroy opportunities. You can put the most logical argument forward to someone, like here in Australia. Here's a quote from Finkel. If the world were to reduce carbon emissions by 1.3%, what impact would that have, or would that make on changing climate of the world? And his response, that the impact would be virtually nothing. And the reason why he was asked about 1.3% was because that is Australia's impact on carbon emissions. But he goes on to say that we should still do it to set an example. So we should repent, we should damage our economy, we should reduce our quality of life to set an example. It's utterly ludicrous, everyone. It really is just completely ludicrous. Let me find, and let's have a look at just, let me show you this one slide here. Let me bring it up. Bear with me for a moment as I find it. Because, well, this is showing you just a glimpse of the coal power infrastructure that China has and that they're continuing to build. Now, Australia is a speck in the world just compared to this one superpower. And the thing is, a lot of environmentalists want us, Australians, to bear the environmental guilt of the coal we're sending overseas that other countries are using and achieving all the benefit from. It's utterly insane. It is completely ludicrous, and I don't know why normal people fall for that, other than they probably don't know what is actually going on. So let's jump back to this. Peterson further said that the consortium would be based on questions rather than answers. One question is about getting energy and resources to the most people for the cheapest costs. Yeah, this is how you address the inequalities in the world. It's not through free money. It's not through free handouts. None of that stuff. It's not through discrimination. It is cheap energy and technology, providing people opportunities to lift themselves up. That's why the world has gotten so much better over the last 100 years. It's not the socialist countries. They've all collapsed and gone to shit, isn't it? It's funny that. It seems like we're stupidly having to learn lessons from the past again. You don't get to save the planet by making energy prices so expensive that no one poor can afford them. That's off the tables. Peterson added that alternative energy sources are encouraged, but not at the expense of the poor. I mean, he's just speaking what I would argue is common sense, but perhaps it isn't to the masses anymore. You don't get to impose your utopian vision in the service of your narcissism on the poor. Another question is about figuring out how to prioritize human well-being in harmony with nature, but human-focused and not predicted on the idea, or not predicated on the idea that there are too many goddamn mouths to feed and that you're evil if you just think about having children. Exactly. As a father of 6, yeah, come on. He said the third question is about how do we arrange systems of governance without a top-down approach like that of the WEF? Yes, it needs to be bottom-up. It needs to be ground-swelled up. It needs to be from the people that are your constituents. I still remember when we were discussing the cash ban and we were watching the Senate hearings into it, and you had this really a bloody weasel of a guy from one of the charities, one of the churches, talking about not nations, but essentially, economic zones or districts. He felt horrendous, just the vibe coming off this man. Peterson said the fourth question is how to promote long-term monogamous child-centered families. No wonder the mainstream media and all the lefty nut jobs hate him. Because it's true. You want stability. Kids want stability, a stable environment with a monogamous child-centered families. This is 100% right. When you get married, it should be about working together as a team to raise a family. That's traditionally what it's about. You see all these people thinking, getting divorced because they're selfish. Yet another question focuses on stories. The question that you put forward in your life is what spirit should guide you as you move ahead. Some spirit is going to guide you. That's life. The question is, what is the highest spirit that could guide you? On Monday, Peterson will speak in Ottawa as part of his Beyond Order 12 More Rules for Life tour. A bunch of Trudeau-funded groups tried to cancel his appearance, but the host didn't cave to the outrage mob. I'm actually, hang on, I'm wearing, let me step back, my Peterson shirt I got at his event last time he came to Brisbane. I should get tickets again. I remember I actually ate way too many carbs and got so tired because I was going from carnivore. Anyway, thanks to all the 36 groups protesting my forthcoming Jan 3rd Ottawa lecture, many funded by Justin Trudeau's Liberals. We've been forced to expand seating to accommodate all the extra purchases of tickets. So there we have it, everyone. Peterson's alternative to the World Economic Forum. Let's have a bit of a talk about this. So I think this is a fantastic idea. We certainly need an alternative to the World Economic Forum because, well, look at what's happened. We had a global pandemic and we had all of these civil servants around the world all, well, primed and prepped for a catastrophe. They all wanted to implement all of the things they learned at the WEF. And what do we have? We had tremendous overreach. We had lockdowns. They were ignoring all of the advice from epidemiologists that argued against this when we had the SARS outbreak. They just ignored it all. They were all primed and ready because they're all in bed with this organization. Their people are all going there. They're networking there. That's why you don't need some global Machiavellian control when you've got people talking to each other, sleeping with each other, having relationships with each other, all in this clique. It's a clique. And it'll go through our politicians. It'll go through the bureaucrats. They'll be appointed. This is why we need an alternative. You need the same, you need our civil servants, our politicians being part of this Peterson alternative so it can start to feed through and sensible human life affirming ideology can start to become the norm in our culture, in our bureaucracy, and in our political class. It's not going to be quick. It's going to take a generation or two, but it starts with baby steps. So this is good news. I think this is fantastic. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. And, well, check out my other channels, HeiseBim and Heise does for other content I create. And if you're a fan and want to support us, you can on YouTube or Patreon. Use our referral links, buy our pocket squares, or call us if you need an architect. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. And I'll see you in the next episode of Heise Says. Bye, everyone. I got to find out next time Peterson's in Brisbane. It would be fun to go to. We should have a meet-up and meet at the pub. What do you reckon?